thought I'd go through half a dozen things I wish I'd known about before I started out in this crazy business. Number one, it's actually okay to be yourself when doing a voiceover. No one ever told me that. No one ever said, be yourself. Or if they did, they didn't explain how to do it. So when I began all those years ago, I started to talk like this. This is someone in their early 20s trying to sound like I was 45 with a great big beard, and I was voiceover man, and I was trying to be deeper than I really was, because I thought, stupidly, that's what voiceover artists sound like. And how wrong could I have been? So being myself should have been what I was aiming for, and trying to find my voice. And no one ever tells you about that. Trying to find what is your comfortable voice, if you like a nice pair of shoes or slippers you can just pop on, and they fit so snugly, and your voice fits snugly around the words of a particular voiceover. And anyway, no one ever explained to me that it's okay to sound like this, to sound like your own voice. And in fact, that's what you should be sounding like, because no one else sounds like it, and that's your unique selling point. Anyway, that was number one. Number two, I've got clients rarely give you feedback. I didn't realise that. I always thought that as soon as you sent an audition off, they'd send something back saying, thank you very much for sending the audition. We've taken a listen, we've discussed it, and but it's not for you today. You're not the voice for our particular project, but we'll keep you on file. I naturally thought that's what happened, and it doesn't. You do your recording, you send it off, and you hear crickets. Nothing. There's nothing there. And it takes a while before you realise that it's just the tumbleweed tumbling down the road. You don't get anything back. And I think it's important to take that on board. And no one ever told me that this is what happens. You send off an audition and you don't hear anything. Now, ever so occasionally, you will get someone replying to you and they say, oh yeah, really liked your voice. Not today, thank you, but we will put you on file. Or just loved your voice, loved what you did. And that sometimes does happen. But it's quite rare. And it is the exception to the rule. So again, something that I was never aware of at the time. What have I got here? Friends and family don't understand what voiceovers are. Some of them will, but the vast majority won't. Your friends and family will be a bit sort of oblivious to it. Not their fault, of course. It's a bit of a weird thing, isn't it? Doing voiceovers, where they say to you, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm being a voice actor. I'm doing voiceovers." And they say, "What? Why are you doing that?" Even to this very day, I get people I was at university with who say, why aren't you using your degree at my stage in life? Why don't you do something related to politics and sociology rather than doing voiceovers? Why not utilise that? And they can't get their heads round the fact that doing voiceovers is a proper job. It's a proper job to us, isn't it? It is a proper job. And, if you're doing it right and you've got some luck on your side, you're going to earn money from it. So I've managed to keep body and soul together, but family and friends, not always. And I've always had supportive partners and so on. But really, I think for a lot of I'd say the majority of family and friends, they have always been a bit sort of, "You're doing what? Ooh, what a weird thing." Admittedly, once they come round to it, once they understand what it's all about, they then go, right, yeah. Wouldn't mind doing that myself, actually. But be prepared for that, because I wasn't prepared for that kind of reaction. Okay, what are we on to? Number 4. It's lonely. It's lonely in the booth, in my case, in this attic room. There's just you and your microphone. That's it. And when you're beavering away and you are doing your auditions and hopefully doing your work or just doing your marketing, it's an isolating experience to a large extent, because by its very nature, you're talking to your mythical listener who's somewhere out there. So I think I wasn't prepared for the isolation in a way, and I wasn't really aware that would necessarily be a thing. I mean, it doesn't. I'm okay with it, because I'm not a particularly, I was going to say, not a particularly social person. I am, but I don't necessarily need people around me all the time. But I know some people do, and if you think it's going to be like working in an office, it isn't. It isn't like that at all. It's very much you, your microphone, your computer, kind of. That's it, really. And you don't get to talk to the clients, or very rarely, unless you're doing a directed session. You just don't get that. And so it's just kind of you doing it, sending off your audition into this black hole, and there's just no interaction. I must admit that the increase in directed sessions does help to some extent, because at least you can see someone on Zoom, and that is like having someone there, I guess. But in the main, you're working on your own pretty much all the time. And if you don't like that kind of thing, it's tough, I think. You sort of got to get used to it. Now, there are sort of groups out there that you can join, Facebook groups and so on, that will help you at least find common souls, people who do the same sort of thing, and you can share stories and get information and help and so on. And they're well worth joining, I think. That gives you, someone else to kind of bounce off and just feel that you're not totally alone. So something, again, I wasn't really prepared for. And like I say, for me, it's not too much of a big issue, but again, it's something that I hadn't budgeted for. Right, number 5, you won't be rich. I'm sorry to say that. I think there's a tendency, and I had this when things are going well, to think, my goodness, I've just earned £200 for an hour's work, 200 quid. Wow, that's fantastic. If I did that 35 hours a week and then did it throughout the year, I'd be on £350,000 a year. That's amazing. I'll be buying a yacht in the Cayman Islands. But of course, it doesn't work like that. You do get paid £200 an hour, if not more, with some jobs. But the thing is that it's sporadic. It's feast or famine. You might find you're doing a load of work 1 minute, and then the next, nothing. You don't get any work for ages and ages and ages. And that is when you start panicking. So the thought that it was, a route to riches is an erroneous one. It's not really. Some people do make a really kind of very, very lucrative living out of it. And I've made a living out of it, and working as an announcer, and I've kept body and soul together and managed to pay the rent and so on. But and at times it has been lucrative, but other times it's been quiet, and I've been scratching around and heading headlong into my overdraft. So it's not going to make you rich. Hasn't made me rich, but it's kind of made me comfortable. But, I would say don't get into it because you want to be incredibly wealthy, because it's probably not going to work for you. Sorry. But do it for the fun. I think that's what I'm saying. And finally, it's a business. I didn't realise how much of a business it actually is. It's the old adage of show business is as much about the business side as it is about the show side. And you can't have one without the other. And it's the same in voiceovers. You know, you can't just think to yourself, all right, I'm here, which I did originally, you know, oh, I'm a creative person and the jobs are going to come to me, and you know, it's going to be my art that I'm selling, and I'm wearing my art on my sleeve, you know, all that kind of nonsense. Because at the end of the day, you've got to market yourself. You've got to keep your profit and loss, keep your accounts, and you've got to promote yourself. It is about the business of being a voiceover artist, a voice actor. So the fact that it is a business puts people off. I know that just from some of my own students. You know, they fall by the wayside because they don't want to run it as a business. They see it as being employed. Well, you can get employed in some rare cases, but in the main, you're out there, self-employed, a solopreneur, as they call it. You are a bit of an entrepreneur, actually. I think you've got to have that spirit underneath what you're doing and being your guiding principle in many ways. But it is a business, and you know, I wish someone had said that beforehand. I still would have got into it, but it comes as a bit of a shock when you realise you've got to do all of these things and you've got to promote yourself. Anyway, I think that's it. I've reached number 6. So I hope they were useful, and I hope they give you some pointers as well, as if you're thinking about getting into voiceovers, or you're already doing it. You know, you probably think, yeah, same with me as well. Anyway, do join our community. Please subscribe or post a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Look after your voice.